Hi everybody, dear friends, dear meditators. This is a new kind of format for the podcast. I thought it would be interesting for me to record a few of my thoughts when I'm doing research for the course. And I've had the opportunity this week to talk with one of the Transcendental Meditation representatives. And I had contacted him because I had paid for a refresh of the course, because I had done the course, and I was interested in asking a few questions as well as maybe dig into some advanced practices for myself, and also maybe as a research for you guys and for the course and for the podcast, for the YouTube channel. And so I had a discussion with him. It was I'm not going to say his name, of course, but an older person who has been teaching the official Transcendental Meditation course for approximately 50 years. I think he said 48 exactly. And we had a little discussion, and I was not very satisfied with this discussion. And this is what I want to talk about today, which is also one of the issues that I have with the whole Transcendental Meditation movement. The first issue is, that's maybe going a little bit political, which is not something that I wish to do at all. But there are some correlations in the philosophy here. Every time you meet somebody in 2021 for the first time, how are you doing? Yes, I'm okay, of course. Boom, you're going to be talking about the virus. And he wanted us to meet. As I said, he's an older gentleman, and he does not believe in masks, and he does not believe in vaccine and all these types of things. And I quickly changed the subject because I'm not really interested in talking about these things, neither here for you nor with me with some person of the Transcendental Meditation organization. Apparently everybody is a medical expert in 2020, and everybody has their opinions which they confuse as fact, and I don't really want to dig into that at all, but it kind of shaped the discussion, the feeling of the discussion also. And we talked about meditation. I told him, I'm not doing the Transcendental Meditation every day, twice a day, because there's some other types of meditation that I like. I've been doing these vibrational meditations. I've been doing some pranayama. I've been doing some mindfulness, some breathing meditations. I've tipped my toes in different types of Zen-oriented meditations and all sorts of types of meditations, because there's a lot of different techniques. We're going to talk about the relationship between different techniques, something that I've been journaling about this week also. But anyway, there's a vast array of possibilities, because there's a vast array of cultures, and because there's a vast array of being able to go to a place where you feel at peace, and it doesn't have to be transcendent of the thought. It doesn't have to go beyond the thought. Sometimes it's a contemplation. Sometimes it's a contemplation on an idea, on a concept, on a symbol. Sometimes it's a contemplation on your breath, on your body, and so on. And I don't think that there is a better way to meditate than another. I think that some meditations are complementary, and I think that some meditations are for different sensitivities, and also for different times, either different times during the day or different times in our lives. And so I told him that not specifically like I think that every meditation is valid, but I said, yes, I've been varying, and he was like, well, you shouldn't do that because Transcendental Meditation is the only meditation. And I was like, well, no, it's not the only meditation. And he was like, yes, it's not the only meditation, but it's the only good meditation. So it's very good that you're coming back to the practice in more advanced ways. And I knew that there was no point in discussing further, because this has always been like this in the Transcendental Meditation environment. For them, and they say it very clearly, if you read the book by Bob Roth, Strength and Stillness, if you read the books by Jack Forum or by Norman Rosenthal, all these people that have been writing extensively on Transcendental Meditation, who of course belong to the Transcendental Meditation movement, And most recently I've been reading a book by Harold Bloomfield, Michael Peter Kane, and Dennis Jaffe, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, called TM, Discovering the Inner Energy and Overcoming Stress. And it's kind of interesting because it's one of the first books on Transcendental Meditation written in the late 60s, but it always goes into that same direction of Maharishi, Mahesh Yogi. Of course, they don't say that he invented these techniques, he brought them to the West, that's what they say, but his word is a little bit like the word of a prophet, and his word is the truth, and nothing else is the truth. And this is why a lot of people tell me or ask me, yeah, I've been going to the introduction of the Transcendental Meditation course, but not only it costs $1,000, $2,000, wherever, it depends where you are. Not only is it extremely expensive, but I felt it was a little bit cultish. So I've always asked the question, is Transcendental Meditation a cult? And so we would kind of have to define, well, what is a cult? And I'm also asked, is it a religion? And so we would also have to ask, well, what is a religion? And it's not a cult in the sense that we see it, in the movies or in old documentaries or in new documentaries. Also, somebody that thinks he's Jesus and everybody thinks he's Jesus. There was one in Siberia, I remember, like 10 years ago, something like this. Cults with, living in the same village, a lot of the time one man and multiple women, and group events, and maybe finishing by a group killing or something crazy like this. And this is the image that we have when we talk about a cult. Now, I don't think that it is a cult in such regard. So I did the official training, so they have all my data, they have my information. They've been quite aggressive when I've been trying to share my experiences with people online and offline. And when I say offline, I even mean my family. So they were like, hey, but you shouldn't talk about Transcendental Meditation even to your wife or to your sister or to a friend or whatever. And this is very, very, very peculiar. This is very strange for me. It's not natural. It's not something that I'm not really okay with that. But to go back to the cultish thing and the religious thing, it is a little bit because they have that certainty. And this is why, and I digress, I go from thoughts to thought in multiple directions, I apologize for this, but this is also why Transcendental Meditation was banned from a lot of schools. At some point they wanted to put Transcendental Meditation in schools, and you would say, wow, that's really awesome. And it is. I think that mindfulness, meditation, is something that is extremely important, and I think that meditation is a non-negotiable in our day and age. We get so much input, we get so much stimulus, so much information. We need to be able to step back, take some perspective, take a nice deep breath. And so I do think that meditation should be in schools. I do think that we should also do yoga and these types of practices in schools. It's just as important as other practices, mental practice, mind practice, and I don't know if you want to call it spiritual as just a thought, as just a symbol, as just an idea, practice in, and of course non-religious, inside of schools. But Transcendental Meditation was banned from many schools, all schools that were considered secular, and the reason for that is that they had the data that it was religious. So of course in Transcendental Meditation it starts with kind of a religious process, right? And again we would have to define what religion is. But we can kind of define it that it has some elements such as certainty. Usually religions are certain that they're right and that nobody else is right, which is the case for TM. Then there's some rituals, which is also the case for TM. And then there's some representative of God, which is also the case for TM. And they don't really say that Maharishi is some sort of a prophet, but they believe in his word as sacred, and the word God, it doesn't have to be God like we see it in Christianity or in Islam or in Judaism, but in the creator of all things. And when we talk about pure consciousness, and when we talk about the unified field, that could also be a definition of another definition of what we can say of God. And I told you about this book, this old book from the 60s, and it starts, I'm going to find the sentence right here. It says, talking about Maharishi, I subscribe unreservedly to his philosophy. I subscribe unreservedly to his philosophy. What does that mean? That means that there's no space for refuting any of his ideas, or for even thinking outside of his word. And for me, this is dangerous. This is the dark side of philosophy. There's of religion. There's a good side of religion. In some religions where you are meant to ask questions, or where you are meant to, and those are usually derived from religions, and they're what you might call more liberal religions, but they're still religions. But you cannot derive from his word. And Transcendental Meditation is the one and only meditation practice that is found. And this is what they tell you. This is what the teachers tell you. This is what the representatives of the organization tell you. And I think that this is very dangerous. So it was the same thing when I took the course, and the teacher asked me, have you ever meditated before? And I said, well, yeah, I've been meditating for some years now, doing some mindfulness meditations and focusing on my breath and so on. And she said, well, then you have never meditated ever in your life. And back in the day, my old self, especially when I took the Transcendental Meditation course, I took it because I was in a very dark place in my life. I was extremely depressed and so on. I don't want to go back into my story, but I was in a vulnerable point. And I know that there's a lot of people that are in a vulnerable point that might be influenced when somebody tells them, this is the truth. This is the truth. This is a certain truth. And by doing this, you will be better than anybody else. And this is also something that is very strange for me, is that we transcend thought to the source of thought. The source of thought is pure consciousness. Everything around us is created by pure consciousness. Everything is made of pure consciousness. So there's atoms, molecules, and if you go down the ladder, and if you go really to the source, it is pure energy, pure consciousness. And so we are all linked because we all belong to that entity of life, to that pure consciousness. Okay? But still, even though this is what you learn in that philosophy, and it's beautiful, and I love it. I love those principles of quantum field philosophy and ideas. Still, they will tell you that this is an advantage over other people if you do it. And this is a problem. This is a problem for me. Because without other people, you cannot be yourself. You're connected in a way that everything is dependent upon everything around you. And so it's like this with a plant. So a plant is in the soil, and it cannot be a plant without soil. Otherwise, well, it's a dead plant, right? So it is dependent on its environment. We are, as human beings, animals, beings, you could call them however you want, dependent on the nature around us, depending on the consciousness around us. And we are all linked to that consciousness because of these theories of unified field. And still, they will say, and I can quote again this this Transcendental Meditation book. And most of these books, I've been studying them because I wanted to go back to some concepts, but they're all really marketing elements for the course. But this is what he says: subscribe unreservedly to his philosophy and his employment of meditation to evolve and augment the physical and metaphysical advantaging of others. Can't speak English today. Advantaging of others. So do this, and you'll be better than the others. You'll be better than the others because you'll be connected. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense. And so, I find it a little bit, the more I dig into it, the more I find it what you might call it cultish or religious. And I've been also rereading the book by Bob Roth, Strength and Stillness, which is basically, how many pages are there in this book? Walking around my room talking, which is something I didn't do before, but I'm enjoying it. I hope it's useful to you. It's approximately 200 pages. They're little pages, but it's approximately 200 pages. And basically it's a 200 pages sales letter for the course. So you'll read this, it will last you a few hours to read it, and you will lose a few hours of your life. Why? Because there's no useful information in this book. It just tells you how great and how amazing Transcendental Meditation is. And how do you build credibility? How does it get credibility? It's every single chapter. There's at least 2 examples on brands that we trust that will influence us to go to the course and belong to that organization. Give your data and your money, because usually it's very expensive. It depends where you do it in the world, but usually it's very expensive. So there's name dropping everywhere. Everywhere they manage to, and this is not only true for this book, but for all of the books on Transcendental Meditation. So depending on the eras. So this Bob Roth book, he'll tell you about opera, he'll tell you about Ellen DeGeneres, he'll tell you about Ray Dalio, about Hugh Jackman, about Seinfeld, about these household names that we like, that we associate to pleasure, that we trust. And it's the same. It's exactly the same thing as Pepsi paying Michael Jackson to make a Pepsi advertisement because you like Michael Jackson. He makes you groove. He makes you tap your foot. It creates joy. It creates a positive reinforcement of that joy. And so when you see a bottle of Pepsi, you think, hey, I'm associating this to Michael Jackson, so this must be better than Coca-Cola because I didn't see Michael Jackson drink Coca-Cola. I saw Michael Jackson drinking Pepsi. And so you might buy Pepsi if you've seen, especially if you've seen that advertisement over and over again for a certain amount of time. The next day you go to the shop, you'll buy a bottle of Pepsi. This is how advertisements do it. They create trust. They create sentiment. And this is what Transcendental Meditation does. So in this older book by Jack Forum, Transcendental Meditation is titled, he does the same thing in the first chapter with the Beatles. So there's a picture of Maharishi with the Beatles, and the Beatles went there, and the Beatles were the thing at the time. This book was, the first version of the book was written in the 60s. So the Beatles were, they were like, the first big pop phenomenon. And so Maharishi had started to do all this quote-unquote marketing for his Transcendental Meditation course, and it was okay, it worked, kind of, because, the 60s. But as soon as he started dropping the Beatles in there, boom, this is when it exploded. And he managed to somehow trademark the words Transcendental Meditation and TM, and this ancient, thousands of year old practice, so that none of you guys, if you don't take the official course, can learn about it. And I think that this is immoral, and I think that this is wrong. And I don't know this person, Maharishi, but I have met many of his representatives in the last few years, and it's always about that. And so, to come back to the discussion that I had with this gentleman, I came out and I was really annoyed. I was really annoyed, and I was not annoyed because of myself, because I'm past this stage. I'm annoyed because of other people that might be influenced by such things. And I believe that we have, that our true power comes from the core of who we are. And ultimately you can tap in that power. You can tap in your pure consciousness. You can tap in your natural state, your natural intelligence. You can do this in so many ways, meditation being one of the most practical ways. But you don't have to go and you don't have to pay for my course, and you certainly don't have to pay 10 times as much for the Transcendental Meditation course. That will try to remove the possibilities that it is anything else than the unique truth. When we talk about religion, usually this is what we talk about. There is one single truth that is irrefutable, and this is what Transcendental Meditation does. And and again in that Bob Roth book, he says there are lies in there, like actual lies, or at least things that I perceive as lies. He says Transcendental Meditation is the oldest type of meditation ever. It's the first. He says it's the best, but forget about that. That can be considered an opinion. But like he says, historically it is the first type of meditation. And that is so not true, because you cannot possibly have any kind of objective proof that 10,000 years ago people were not sitting and breathing, and that is meditation, or reflecting on a thought, and that is meditation. And so this cultivation, this religious view that Transcendental Meditation is just the only one, the oldest one, and the only valid one. It's something that, and I'm starting to repeat myself, so I'm going to press the stop button on this podcast. But I just wanted to share this with you, and a lot of people have been asking me, is the course a Transcendental Meditation course? And no, it is not a Transcendental Meditation course, because I do not belong to the Transcendental Meditation organization. I do not want to belong to the Transcendental Meditation organization, and I do not want to be in any type of form associated to the Transcendental Meditation organization. I do not believe that it is righteous. I do not believe that it is virtuous. I'm not going to say that it's evil, but it's just another business trying to take your money away by selling you the hallucination that they even comprehend the truth. Because and I love this quote, and I tell it to all of my students, the first thing that we meet is something, I always say this first time that we meet, which is the opposite of every big truth is another big truth. I can guide you into trying to opening up to the things that I believe in, or that I am particularly sensitive to, and some ideas that I find fascinating, and some things that I've tried with myself, with some other students before. And thank you, the internet has now worked with so many people and had so much feedback on meditations. Millions of meditations have been practiced now on the YouTube channel, which is absolutely amazing. But I don't hold the truth. I'll never say that this meditation is better than the other. I'll never say all these types of things. So no, it's not a Transcendental Meditation course. It's a course where we will learn to transcend. To transcend it just means to go beyond. So to go beyond what? Well, to go beyond our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings. At least for a certain amount of time. So to start with, during our meditations. How? Through different techniques that we'll talk about, that I've extensively talked about in the past. So mantras, mantra-based meditations, and that's also I digress again, but that's also another lie in the Bob Roth book. Maybe it's not a lie. Maybe I was just scammed in my course, but I took the course from the Transcendental Meditation organization. And it tells you, yeah, the teacher will create the mantra for you that is specific for you according to your sensitivities, your activities, so your job. And this is basically like all the data you fill in every single day of the course. You fill in a big yellow paper with all your data, and this is kind of how they give you the at least the first one, because afterwards you already have your, but at least the first one. This is how you get the mantra, but it's not true. I've seen the list on the internet. It's very easy. Just Google it and you'll find the list according to your age, and there's your mantra. And I've seen the list, I looked at my age, and there was my mantra. So there's a whole chapter on how they create the mantra specifically for you. And this is not only a lie, this is like a false advertising, isn't it? What was I saying? Yes, in the types of meditation to transcend, so mantra-based meditations, vibrational meditations, of course, like we do every single day on this podcast, on the YouTube channel. Different types of meditations that I've studied and tried out, such as chanting and deep listening, and all these types of meditations that are very, very well valid. I can assure you, and you can try them because you can do it for free, and you don't have to do the course. By all means, don't feel pressured to do the course. You have I'll share with you, of course. I'll continue to do so. There's over 500 meditations on the YouTube channel. I started posting every day here on the podcast. I'm not sure if this will continue because I don't have so much server space. Otherwise, I would have to pay much more for the how do you say, the hosting of the podcast is different to YouTube. But anyway, we will continue to do a lot of work there. This is I just want to finish this podcast episode by saying that this is not a rant. This is not me ranting. This is me having this experience, having talked to this guy who is a representative of the TM organization, having dug deep into all of these books and documents and experiences that I've had in the past regarding Transcendental Meditation, and the warning and an answer to a question that has been asked to me over and over again: should I do the Transcendental Meditation course? How can I? What is my secret mantra? All these types of. Is it a cult? Is it a religion? And this is. I thought I would record a few of my thoughts on this subject. And this is kind of a non-edited podcast where I rumble, I mumble, and I will press the stop button. If you have any questions, do call me, or don't call me because you don't have my number. Do send me an email or a message on Instagram or wherever, and I'll do my best to answer you. And if you have some other questions, I might do some other of these talks where I can answer some of your questions the best I can. Okay guys, I hope you have a nice day. I hope the sound was not too awful because I'm recording this on my phone. And I'll see you tomorrow for a new meditation probably. Take care. Bye.